Well, good morning from old Route 66. We're back in Winslow, Arizona. Before I go stand on the corner, I just wanted to stand here and admire this nice restored Texaco building, which is now a realty office and, according to the sign, a private shop. What an incredible restoration. This is exactly the kind of thing that you have to imagine when you're driving past all those abandoned old gas stations going up and down Route 66. But here in Winslow, Arizona, this beautiful Texaco station right here is restored to all its former glory. Look at that beautiful old vintage Bronco. Beautiful weather outside. The sun is shining down. It's a great day to get your kicks on Route 66, which I've been traveling down for a couple of days now, having a blast, having the time of my life. Just met a nice lady named Becca, one of the 10,000 nice people who welcome you to Winslow, Arizona, where old Route 66 cuts through the heart of the old downtown, which of course is most famous for that one throwaway line in an Eagles song. And that's why everyone wants to come here to take it easy and stand on the corner in Winslow, Arizona, and get a fun pic. Boy, I was standing out here last night in front of the Take It Easy store, which, by the way, is right across the street from the Standing on the Corner store. There was nobody standing on that corner last night, but look at this. We're here just about 11 o'clock in the morning, and there are people everywhere. It's the Abbey Road of northeastern Arizona. They have done so much to beautify and restore the buildings downtown. You got the Sip and Shop over here on the corner, which I hear has really good food. A cute little information booth over here, and even the Winslow Theater. They got a tiny little movie theater right here in town. But we saw all of this last night. I'm just here standing on the corner again because I woke up in Winslow, Arizona this morning, just stretching my legs out a little bit before I start running down the road trying to loosen my load, literally, by completing this trip's primary goal, its primary mission. I've got to make a special delivery to one of my favorite places on Route 66, the Jackrabbit Trading Post, which is not too far away. And of course, the best way to complete any mission is to quit talking about it and do it. So in that spirit, it's time for us to get on the road. Dude, I love Winslow, Arizona. Great little small town. It's on the rise. They're really cleaning it up. So many new things to experience out there. The Jackrabbit, by the way, is only about 20 minutes or so. If you take the interstate, I'm taking old Route 66 as much as possible along the railroad tracks here. And actually, we have to pass the Jackrabbit first. I want to tell you about something incredible they're doing at the Jackrabbit Trading Post. First, we got to go a little farther afield and give you the backstory. Dude, it was so hard seeing the billboards and actually passing by the exit on the interstate for the Jackrabbit, but I've made it about 4 miles past it to Joseph City, founded in 1876 by Mormon pioneers. So it's actually named after their prophet, Joseph Smith. It's a very small town. There might be more cows than people in Joseph City. How you doing there? Not one that's famous from a big Route 66 song or anything like that. But 100 years ago in 1926, when they laid out the official path of Route 66, they chose Joseph City as one of the watering holes along the Mother Road, which, although you wouldn't really know it looking around today, meant that all around these pioneering Mormon family homes popped up gas stations and garages and motels and campgrounds. It was a long way from the mud and log fort originally erected here in Joseph City by the Mormon pioneers, which this historical marker made out of petrified wood celebrates. That's one heck of a monument, I'll tell you what. What? These guys don't like my voice. I guess they know I'm just a little hoarse. Anyway, today, now that the interstate has bypassed the road through downtown Joseph City, most of the remnants of the past have slowly disappeared, but not all of them. If they're lucky, most curious Route 66 travelers will find the free Pioneer Museum here in Joseph City, which is locked up and being cleaned up today. But driving through downtown, you're not going to see many vestiges of the golden age of Route 66. Hotels, motels, restaurants, unless you know where to look. At first glance, the Joseph City storage facility just looks like a modern storage building. But actually, what we're looking at is an old 1947 roadside motel known back in the heyday as the Pacific motel. It was the biggest game in town. The motel was built by an entrepreneur who came here to Joseph City with his sons, built this place by hand out of custom-made concrete blocks starting in 1947, and it was later expanded and expanded again. Not only did they build their roadside motel, of which I believe this thing we're looking at here on the corner was the office, and then right next door to it was the gas station and garage, but they also built a Pacific restaurant across the street. I'm wondering if this is the building. I could not find any old photos before this trip. That sure looks like a large old Route 66 restaurant to me. Maybe the entrance was right there in the center. And the important thing about this old 1947 motel is not just that it was here during the heyday, the golden age of Route 66 in the late 40s and early 50s into the 1960s before the interstate took over, but the original motel here was built by a guy named Glenn Blansett, who later went on to become a politician and actually sold out his property here in Joseph City, and then first leased and then later purchased the Jackrabbit Trading Post just 4 miles to the west. I have driven by this dozens of times, and if it wasn't for his granddaughter telling me exactly where the old Pacific Motel was, I would have never known. So keep that little piece of Jackrabbit Trading Post history and lore in your head for a little bit. Got the old, original, hand-built Pacific Motel, and then possibly the old Pacific restaurant across the street, right here in the heart of downtown. But if you keep going farther west, I should have said farther west, there's a big difference between further and farther, past the freeway on-ramp and down 2 miles of dead-end road that used to be Route 66, you will start seeing old abandoned remnants of trading posts and campgrounds, like Howdy Hank's Trading Post right here. It was originally called the Hopi Village Indian Store and Cafe. It became Howdy Hank's. Then Hank left town under suspicious circumstances, and eventually it was owned by Max Ortega, so it was an Ortega Trading Post, then the historic Route 66 Hay Sales and Feed Store, and now it's just been given over to the ravages of time. But you can still see just a little bit of ghost painting right here. Howdy Hank's. Yeah, sweet. What's up with all these animals? Have they never seen a person before? You also see the remains of tons of campgrounds along this section. Past those very nosy cows, you'll see a little wooden shed out there with the word camping painted on the side. You'll see all kinds of lampposts down here in the old Red Arrow Camps campground for different campsites that used to be on this property. Seriously, it's this amazing dead-end section of Ghost Road with all these old ghost campgrounds on it. I think myself, being a kid, and we could never afford hotels, so my parents always had us stay in KOA campgrounds, very similar to this. I just think of all the fun my brother and I had roaming around, exploring the campground. Would have been amazing to stay out here back in the 50s or the 60s. Now there's nothing left but some fencing, some lampposts, some sagebrush, and an old bathtub right there. Anyway, you can see it was a very popular stretch of Route 66. A lot of people staying here, passing through here. And there was once another old historic trading post located just past the campground here. Once and probably best known as Ella's Frontier. It wasn't that many years ago that I was standing right here in front of this pile of ruins, and Ella's Frontier, the main building, the oldest part of the building, was still standing proudly, although a little bit decayed, along the side of old Route 66. Then of course I cruised back here on another trip, and all of a sudden it was gone, just a pile of rubble. If you've traveled Route 66 long enough, you know that this is just the thing that happens. But Ella's Frontier was pretty historic. It was built in 1927 by Frederick San Diego Rawson, was known as San Diego's Trading Post. He later sold the business to another fella who lost it in a divorce settlement to his ex-wife, Ella Blackwell, who ran the place from 1955 until her death in the early 1980s. Well, mid-1980s, 1984 or so. Now, if you compare this rubble to that old black and white photo, what you're seeing on the right side of your screen is the remains of that addition where the word petrified wood was painted, I think, on it. And I know it's hard to tell, it's a little backlit, but there's just a little bit of remnants of paint left on that section where the word petrified wood would have been painted. And off to the left, you can see some of the other outer buildings are still there, although in a very dilapidated condition, but the main original core of Ella's Frontier, gone. It always weirded me out that it was gone. You can see some other logs and pieces of the additions to the trading post, but that original core bit of Ella's Frontier just disappeared overnight. Somewhere did it become firewood? What happened to it? Well, just recently, to diehard fans of Route 66, that mystery was unveiled. Because the beams and posts, the old original logs that built up the original Ellis frontier have not disappeared, have not become firewood, and although they're not here in Joseph City anymore, they do still exist. And with that, let us now travel back down the road to the west to the Jackrabbit Trading Post. And here it is, right alongside the old Santa Fe Railroad tracks, one of the most iconic signs to ever grace the desert, because there used to be billboards up and down the highway for miles and miles advertising the Jackrabbit. And then when you got to this dusty, lonely section of Route 66, how would you know where you are? This sign right here. Here it is. Look at it, it's been all recently refreshed and repainted, nice and bright yellow. There are few things more iconic than this along Route 66, and then the Jackrabbit Trading Post itself is just across the highway. One of my favorite places on the Mother Road with some of my absolute favorite people, Tony and Cindy. And I've come all this way just to bring them a little something from me, because they've given me many little presents over the years, including my Jackrabbit Trading Post sign, my mileage sign hanging up in my garage, so I always know exactly how far I am from the Jackrabbit every day. And recently, a little 3D printed copy of their signs and their iconic Jackrabbit. And I'm ashamed to say, I've never actually asked the Jackrabbit's name. I assume his name is just Jack, and look at this, he's celebrating St. Paddy's Day, which just passed right behind us. Yes, sir, the people at the Jackrabbit Trading Post, and the rabbits too, never forget me, so I never forget them. And this building right here started its life as a Santa Fe Railroad building, just a support building for the railroad across the street, and then became the Arizona Herpetarium, one of those snake museums that used to draw visitors off the highway, until in 1949, owner Jack Taylor released the snakes. And legend says their grandchildren are still dotted all over this patch of desert, and opened the Jackrabbit Trading Post in 1949. And like I said, Glenn Blansett leased it in 1961, just after selling out of Joseph City. He bought property all up and down this road. That's why there's an old gas station just to the west and some old houses, because his daughter and son-in-law took this place over from him, and they later passed it on to their daughter and son-in-law, Cindy and Tony Jaquez, who are still out here today. So it's been a family business for generations, and I brought them just a little gift here. Yes, we're supposed to be selling it, but so far no retail stores have picked it up along Route 66, and most of the small businesses along the Mother Road have been struggling for the last couple of years, probably because people were waiting to do their trips until this year, 2026, the 100th anniversary of the Mother Road. And so I have brought a whole case of my Randomland hot sauce out here to donate to the cause. I don't know if they'll be able to reorder it or even want to reorder it in the future, but at least there will be a dozen bottles of Randomland hot sauce, hopefully available here at the Jackrabbit Trading Post. That's my idea, because I want Cindy and Tony to be the first people to have it on the old Mother Road. All right, let's hop on in to the Jackrabbit. Oh, I see Cindy standing right there behind the counter. And Tony. It's two of my favorite people ever. I come bearing gifts for you. Okay, I've delivered the hot sauce to Tony and Cindy. I know, look at that.
Show it off.
It'll be the first place on Route 66 with the hot sauce. You guys got the bottle I sent you before, right? Okay. It wasn't too hot for you?
It was fine. It had a kick.
But it's good.
It's good, yes.
And then somebody dropped these off for me right here.
Corey dropped this off for you.
And Adam sent those to him years ago. Yes. So these are a pair of...
And we've had people see these wanting to know if those were for sale. I said, those are...
Yeah. Thank you. I was like, I better hurry before someone steals them, right?
Yeah.
Okay, Cindy just told me that her son's father-in-law owns the storage over there. So it's still all connected to you. And look at this little museum in here is my favorite part of the Jackrabbit. Look at all of the epic stuff in here, all of the history, all the old bottles, the epic collection of glass rabbits sent in to this place from all over the world. A lot of old original pieces of signage. And there's Glenn Blansett right there, the sort of founder of the feast, the family patriarch. I just love all these cool old relics. And somewhere hiding in here is a little hand-painted Route 66 sign of mine. I don't know where it's at these days. Stuff moves around in here all the time. But come spend some time in this room. Come spend some time with Cindy and Tony. Come get some Randomland hot sauce. Get a fun pic with this original Route 66 sign. I mean, how freaking cool is that? It's one of my favorite places on the world. I can't explain why. There's a lot more stuff hiding out here than just relics of the past. By the way, look at the old stove right there. How long has that stinking been in here? There's so much merchandise, so many hats, little carved pieces of wood, Minnetonka moccasins, cowboy hats, ashtrays, those metal things you put pots on, coffee mugs. Just they've got it all. Look at even these big jugs. I ain't never seen jugs that big before. Look at this, authentic Native American pottery. Serapes with the lobos on them. The wolf. Route 66 hats, license plates, even more historical displays about the jackrabbit. And signage galore. Look at this. You can make your own mileage sign in here. Look at this. You got a bunch of dry rubs and seasonings. There's some honey over there. I believe there's some hot sauce. I'm glad we could add to the mix. Jalapeno jelly. And look at this. Acres and acres of petrified wood. Old Route 66 glass insulators. A lot of these artifacts came off abandoned sections of the highway, and there used to be a lot of these things in here for sale, and now it's getting a little bit thin. So come get these super vintage glass and ceramic insulators from right underneath more of the collection of rabbits from all over. Man, they must go off in this place for Easter. I've probably been told this before, but I'm very forgetful and stupid, but you can see right here where the original building ended in Cindy and Tony. I was just asking about the snake museum, if they ever see weird snakes in the desert. And, well, who are you saying told you the story?
His name is Glenn Jones. He lives in Texas, but he lived in Josie for a long time, and he worked for my grandfather Glenn and knew my dad, but when they took the concrete work down and moved stuff out, there was a whole bunch of skeletons of rattlesnakes and skins. Like they shed their skin. There was skins.
So the snakes that they let go just moved in underneath the building for a while or to the side. That's so cool. I love this. I love the new merchandise out here. These little miniature jackrabbits, and I've got a resupply with some stickers for my van, which I did not bring with me, but I need some little stickers right here. I put the stickers inside of the doors. I don't need any kachinas or petrified. Well, you know what? I could always use a little bit of petrified wood. They actually have really good prices on this petrified wood out here. I'm getting a bigger chunk. I'm gonna get a big chunk for my mom. Right, I was just chewing the fat with Cindy and Tony for a little while, and we're not done with exciting announcements to do with the Jackrabbit Trading Post. The Max Pins guy just came in here. They're the people that make pins for all the different businesses up and down Route 66. I didn't know they had a guy who actually comes out like the Fuller paintbrush man or the Avon lady that comes and checks up on your supply. That is freaking awesome. Also, by the way, look at this. There's an entry form for the first annual Jackrabbit Trading Post car show, June 13th? Yes. June 13th. Dude, Cindy and Tony are some of the best people you will meet on Route 66. And they sacrificed everything to stay out here on this road that Cindy actually grew up on. I just asked, like, was that weird for you when you had to move back? Like, well, I'm going home. Sacrificed everything to keep this family-run business going. It's been here since 1961 in their family. You know, times are tough when things slow down on the route for every small business owner, but the Jackrabbit you actually have to get off and make a specific trip to, so it's even harder out here. And then not only do they have the woes of every small business owner, but they got to keep that Jackrabbit upkept for all the tourists. They have professionals come out and repaint this sign and maintain the "Here It Is" sign along the side of the highway for all the visitors as well. So they put a lot of their own blood, sweat, and tears into this place. And so if I could drop off a case of free hot sauce, why not? Hopefully people will come out here and buy it. 20 bucks a bottle. I know that sounds pricey, but trust me, it costs us a lot to make. It's all in small batches. So that money will go to them, and then maybe they'll restock it. Hopefully we'll have some Randomland hot sauce finally out here on Route 66. So please come out, get some hot sauce, say hi to Cindy and Tony, check out the little museum, check out the "Here It Is" sign. But I'm not done. There is more epicness to tell you about just to the west of the Jackrabbit, but still on their property. Like I was just telling you, there was the Blansett family empire out here, so that road doesn't just lead back to the interstate, there's a house down there that used to be in the family. There used to be an old campground down here owned by the family. And then there was an old gas station and repair shop that was in the family, and then out of the family was some scoundrels that used to like spill oil on the ground and be like, oh, you're leaking, we got to get you some new parts. So they eventually closed down and has now been reacquired by the Jackrabbit. And that's not the only project coming back to life out here off Jackrabbit Road. As you see, we've just come down the road to the west as yet another train passes by, and here you see the old filling station that Tony worked really hard at cleaning up. It used to be all kinds of full of junk and crazy stuff and covered with weeds, even over the concrete, believe it or not. And now look at it, it's much more fixed up, looks in much better shape. Then right next door to that, often kind of overlooked because this section of the road just dead ends in the modern day into a private residence. I don't know if it's owned by relatives of theirs anymore or not, but it definitely used to be, is the campground. And you can see the campground office and the old shower building. And then right there, you see $10 right on the side. See, Glenn Blansett bought all this property out here just as the interstate was being built and bypassed this section of road, making it not Route 66, but just nothing. Luckily, he was able to build the gas station out here, which still brought people off the highway, and the campground right around the time that the power plant was being built in Joseph City by Holbrook over there. So they were just telling me that even though the flow of Route 66 travelers meant to keep the Jackrabbit alive back in the day had slowed down significantly, that's how he was able to maintain business out here, stay profitable, and keep the Jackrabbit alive long enough for it to be passed on to his grandchildren who are still running it today, which is absolutely insane and awesome. So they haven't had this property out here for all that long. They've done a lot of work cleaning it up. It's still a work in progress. Who knows what will end up happening to it, if it'll house something for Route 66 one of these days kind of thing, but at least it's being preserved now. So please don't graffiti on it. It's not abandoned. And then it turns out it's a darn good thing they got the property because look what is rising from the ashes. These simple logs here right in front of us aren't just any old dry desert logs. These are the logs of Ella's Frontier. It's kind of a long, convoluted story that Cindy and Tony just told me that I'll play for you in 1 second. Basically, the long version short is that the lady who owned the property was done with it. She wanted to tear it down because kids were partying in there and it was unsafe. She didn't want anyone to get hurt. And eventually, after being stored in different places, Cindy and Tony got a hold of it because the owner of the property in the building wanted it to be closer to Joseph City than where it was being stored. And now Tony, with the help of Ed Klein of Spencer, Missouri, and some other people, was out here busting their necks, putting Ella's back together. Now, obviously, they have got other projects going on I'll tell you about in just a little bit. And so many projects in the works, and their car show, and the Route 66 Centennial Celebration headed this way this summer. Not to mention the fact that it is hot and dry out here. Most of the time they get crazy dust storms. So this is a work in progress that will probably take a while to fix. By the way, they still have some of the bricks from the original fireplace they'll be able to put in here. And they have the original Ella's Frontier sign. They'll tell you about that in 1 second. But when I saw them post about this a little while ago, and Ed Klein texted me about it, like, we had to keep this a secret, but check it out. It blew my ever-loving mind, because you see my pictures of Ella's from just a couple of years ago, and it was in bad, rough shape, but at least it was standing out. There's the desert, so it's dry. Things stay preserved for a while. But it was pretty clear that people were getting inside the building. They were dumping trash, like maybe kids from Joseph City, because it was so easy to access and stuff. So I think it will be much better preserved out here in, well, basically in Jackrabbit, since they're not technically part of Joseph City. They're their own thing out here. And here's the really crazy part before I let Cindy and Tony tell you the story of Ella's Frontier's restoration and how they ended up getting it. A couple of years ago, before they even got this or knew this was going to happen on their property at all, somebody came in and brought them a little green chair that's sitting in the Jackrabbit right now. That was Ella's chair from Ella's Frontier. Somebody purchased it in an estate sale and had it in their barn or whatever, and then just donated it to the Jackrabbit at some point. And now it was like sort of fortuitous, right? Because now Ellis Frontier is rising again from the ashes. A Route 66 legend rises again. And maybe old Ella's spirit will have a place to rest over here. I'm not sure if that's how the afterlife works. I've never been there. But at least her spirit can rest here in spirit. All right, let Cindy and Tony tell you how it all went down.
So Ellis Frontier, back in 2018, the lady that owned the property that Ellis was in Joseph City, the property, the sign was up above. And she said when the wind blew, it was like really wobbling. So she asked us if we could remove it and save it or donate it or whatever. Because she didn't want somebody to get hurt. And people were trespassing.
Yeah.
And throwing their trash in there. The kids were partying in there. And she just didn't want people.
Right.
So we went and took it down. So Tony and a local cowboy and his uncle came and helped Tony, and Boss from Earl's motel came, and we got the tractor and got up there and we took it down in 2018 and have had the sign here since.
Oh, I didn't know that.
It's outside, and so the people that we asked to donate it to didn't want it in Joseph City.
Really?
They said it was too big.
Oh man, okay.
So we thought, well, we'll just see what happens. Well, in the meantime, Elaine passed away.
Right.
And another couple that bought the property was going to tear Ellis down and ruin it. So Ed Klein.
Yeah. I love Ed. He's the best.
He and us asked if we could save Ellis.
That is so cool.
So it was posted. So Ed was helping Joanne at Meteor City.
Yeah.
And it was going to go there. It was stored there for almost from 2019 till.
So that's where it went. Okay.
Ago. So it was in a trailer out there. That trailer that was all spray painted. It was in that trailer.
That's amazing.
So when Joanne's husband died, she didn't want it, and the people.
She didn't really want to, because it was hard on her.
Yeah.
Just keep it going. She decided to step away from it, and then somebody else that actually wanted to continue it. And that's where it ended up over
and
here.
The people that originally let us have it said, no, we want it closer.
Yeah.
So do you guys want it here? And we said, oh, sure. So we had it in August or September of 2 years ago. And then we found out that, we hadn't found a place for it.
Yeah.
We stored it behind Bloss, actually, and Tony brought it out here along with the Ferris wheel from the big Arrow.
Yeah.
That's right next door behind the station down here, was stored there. So when we started putting it up, Ed showed up and Joanne showed up.
Well, we played around Ed because Ed could come up and help.
Yeah, and Ed's the best.
Put the numbers on the logs and all that.
He's done so much work at Spencer and stuff.
Yeah.
How many days was he here? 3, 4, 5 days?
4 days, and the winds blew like horrendous winds, 60, 70 mile an hour winds, 4 days in a row. But we started putting L's up, and the very first day, he worked all week long on a little bobcat trying to get it all leveled out and everything. The very first day Ed got here, he went to get up and he popped his knee.
Oh no!
I was out of commission.
He was out. We got this far.
Yeah, that's amazing though.
We'll get there. But
yeah, it's going to be a while probably to put a whole. It's like Lincoln Logs, right? Were they even numbered, or you're just putting it together? Okay, good. So you know how to put it back together.
Moving them back and forth, some of the numbers have kind of
rubbed off. Oh no!
Chalk, and
we got most of it pretty well. Now we get to the top.
The windows.
And I think we're missing some. I think somebody. Because we left some outside, and I think we're thinking
of no, somebody might have got some firewood or something.
1 or 2 or something like that there, yeah.
So it'll take a while to finish, but it's still going up, and you guys are so sneaky.
It'll be finished, but I was just so happy that you were so
You
excited.
never told me anything about that, and I went and filmed it. No, and I filmed it.
Didn't say anything.
Yeah.
Well, we kept
we didn't want
people to...
break in the trailer and steal Ellis Frontier or something like that. I didn't even know the sign was here.
We just took the sign down. People ragged us about it.
Right.
They were honest and saying, you should have just left it, or you should have done this,
right.
you should have done that. And we said, no.
That's how the internet is. I just went through a lot of that.
I know.
It's going to be horrible. And then afterwards, it was so great and wonderful. The internet, what are you going to do?
I know. So we saved it, and we knew for some reason that it was meant to be here for some reason.
Yeah.
Now we know why.
But you grew up here, so did you know Ella? Did you ever meet her?
I met her one time. I was probably with my dad.
Yeah.
So I was probably 8 or 9 or 10.
Because the rumors were that she was a little bit kooky. She would talk to the mannequins and stuff out there.
We've heard some different stories. But I don't know. I know I was in there one time. I just remember feeling eerie looking out the windows.
Yeah, I have an old postcard from the inside, and it's so dark in there, and you're like, ugh, even in the postcard photo, it's super dark.
And it seemed, And well, even in high school, I remember the kids would like to go in there and say, "Oh, the jars that are in the windows have fingers in them and stuff like that." Like, I didn't want to go
Maybe
in
they
there.
did. Maybe they did. This is so cool, though. You guys are like
I don't know.
holding the fort down here, the family business, and now you've got the Ellis Frontier going up down there by the gas station.
And what I want to do eventually, but not now, because it will just get.
Yeah, it'll take a while.
You know how
we're gonna have to sell a lot of hot sauce to get there.
Yeah. How people
That's
dress up in the Western clothes and take pictures.
Yeah.
I'm gonna get like wagon wheels and they have like a horse tie looking.
that'd be
and have people
so
take
cool.
Vintage pictures in front of Ellis.
But it's cool that you already have the sign,
Yeah,
so you're like ready to go. That's amazing. Dude, what a story, Mark. I mean, that's incredible. Do you see why it was important to my heart to bring the Randomland hot sauce out to Cindy and Tony to be the first people to have it on Route 66? First of all, to take over the family business when they had successful careers of their own elsewhere, and to stick it out through thick and thin out here on the Mother Road, to welcome all those visitors, to post constant traffic updates for Route 66 travelers, to put a live stream camera in front of their place for rail fans to see the trains going by even if they're not here in person, and then to purchase and clean up the old gas station so that it gets preserved, and then to do this. I mean, all out of the passion, the love for the Route 66 traveler, and a sense of duty to preserve the future. And then on top of that, they're just the sweetest, kindest, nicest people. I've been up and down Route 66 for years, and there's all kinds of sweet, nice, kind people, and they are among the very kindest and sweetest. It's a bummer that I only get to see them for a few hours a year every year, but they send me stuff in the mail. I like to send stuff out to them. I'm always thinking of them. I got that sign above my workbench in the garage. I think about them literally every day. And this is what can happen. This is why I'm always telling people, look, I love Disney parks. You know me, and Disney's the ultimate example. I'm not picking on Disney, but for the cost of going out just for another visit to Walt Disney World, and especially if you're staying on property or doing anything like that, or doing a cruise, those things can be very cool and very memorable once in a while. But there are people who do that every single year and have never been out on a trip across America on the highways and byways, whether Route 66 or any other back road or old highway. And I'm always telling people, like, man, for the money, you could have a whole cross-country adventure that I promise you, especially if you kind of get yourself out of your bubble. And I can be very bashful and shy myself. You get yourself out of your little bubble and talk to people along the way, you will make friends and memories that you cannot make anywhere else. It's America's 250th birthday this year, and I spent a lot of time thinking. I had plans to go to Philadelphia with Adam on the 4th of July. Unfortunately, he passed away, and I don't think that's gonna happen anymore. But I kept thinking of other things I could do to kind of celebrate America's 250th, and then I realized, you know what? We don't need a special trip to Monticello or Mount Vernon or all the American Revolutionary battlefields, although it would be cool if I could pull some of that off. We gotta celebrate America when and where we find it. And I'm always celebrating America because I'm always traveling across it. And the whole original 13 colonies may be where America started, but it continues and it lives on in the small towns all over this great nation. And you can find a lot of that old school American spirit that kind of feels like it's missing in the cities out here on the main street of America, Route 66, because these people have been playing host to travelers from all over the world and become de facto ambassadors for America for generations now, and they are good at it. By the way, Cindy and Tony knew what I was doing. Please do not step across the barbed wire fence unless you have permission to approach Ellis. You gotta be heading on down the highway, although I'm gonna head further east first and then back west. Oh, but before I get in the car, there's also a Ferris wheel, pieces of an old Ferris wheel behind that filling station. That Ferris wheel was actually out at that campground we were looking at with the big, triangle sign for years and years. That was also donated to the cause out here at the Jackrabbit. So you never know what's gonna happen with that, but here it is, it's preserved. Dude, it's so freaking exciting. But as my dad would say, that's enough of my yakking. All right, I thought the Jackrabbit was gonna be the end of the road, at least for today's adventure, but I had to come east a little farther to Holbrook, Arizona. Another one of my absolutely favorite places, a little more rough and beaten down than it was in the heyday of Route 66. I had to come down here because I found out that Cindy and Tony, in addition to all their other projects, are also helping to manage this right now. This incredible historic home, supposedly built by one of the early Mormon pioneer families out here, that overlooks the Route 66 town of Holbrook and the highway leading out to the Petrified Forest National Park. This is historically known as the Huard House, the Huard House of Holbrook. That's why HHH B&B. It is now an amazing, huge bed and breakfast location with multiple themed rooms inside. There are people staying on the property right now, which is why I can't get inside to show you the rooms, but I just pulled over just to show you. This is an absolutely massive facility. You can see they used to have a steakhouse here, and so they still run that stuff, and all the huge patios and the beautiful decorated areas. I'm going off the pictures, right? Because I don't want to peek inside while there's people staying here. And not only can they have multiple guests staying in multiple rooms, it's like a huge B&B in there. In fact, we're just seeing the top story because it actually has a bottom story going down the other side of the hill. Maybe we'll get a peek at it, although I got to go around this road. And let me tell you, there was a crazy old lady right on my rump as I was coming up around this corner. Geez, lady, she was trying to get to the church up there. She got some praying to do, I guess. But no, this is an absolutely gorgeous, huge, massive old historic estate, the Huard House of Holbrook, and it sits on an upper portion of old Route 66, looking out over the interstate and down over the train tracks, over Holbrook down there. I think the website is huardhouseofholbrook.com, but it's on Airbnb and stuff. I mean, look at this. You're starting to get a sense of how enormous this was. Apparently they had a family connection that was running this place that was gonna sell the property, and so Cindy and Tony once again stepped in to take over another business, at least for now, to see how it goes. And so not only is there this huge bed and breakfast they're running out here, which is just in an absolutely amazing location. And let me tell you that, as someone who's stayed here in Holbrook many times, this is like freaking sick. Look at the patio and the porches out there. You can gaze out over all the lights at night. Yeah, not only do they do that, but this is a wedding venue. So if you want to come out to Holbrook and have the coolest, craziest Route 66 wedding in a house big enough that you could stay here with your entire freaking family, hit up the Jackrabbit Trading Post or go to huardhouseofholbrook.com, or hopefully you can see those phone numbers right there on the sign. Like I said, it's also on Airbnb. This is an absolutely gorgeous, amazing, historic home that was expanded and expanded. And now it's this crazy B&B, and you can get married here. Just make sure you pick the right partner. You don't want to do it over and over again, trust me. They were showing me pictures of all the rooms inside. You can see them on the website. It's absolutely fantastic. And I knew it must be big, but standing out here, and I don't know how well it's like translating to camera, but standing out here, holy cow, look at the size of this place. A beautiful little garden out here, all kinds of Native American artwork, an old hay wagon in the parking lot. So much room for parking, so much room for partying. Dang it, if I'd only known, maybe I could have had a wedding out here. But my ignorance is now your gain. You could come out here to Holbrook, Arizona, have a Route 66 wedding unlike any other. Or if you're the type that likes to stay in very fancy bed and breakfast. I can't stay in a bread and breakfast, I'd die. Celiac disease. I'm a little winded from that hill. That's a steep hill. Or if you're the type that likes to rent out the whole thing for yourself and have a very fancy private party, hey, this is freaking awesome. I mean, this is exactly what I'm talking about. This is why people like Cindy and Tony are my heroes, because you often find out that maybe they start with one little project or one little place on Route 66, and even as hard as it is to manage that, you'll see people that have a passion for the Mother Road, they have a passion for entertaining and hosting travelers. They'll start getting involved in all kinds of preservation projects and other businesses, and so for the time being, they're involved in this. And that alone would lead me to recommend it to you very, very highly, because they're the best people. Anyway, before I go down and cruise down Route 66 through Holbrook and cruise all the way back home to Anaheim, California, because it is my son's birthday tomorrow as I film this. So yes, it took me 3 days to get all the way out here, but I'm gonna get home in one night. I mean, my birthday's only 4 days afterwards, and I'm pretty sure my wife would be upset if I wasn't there to celebrate with her. I'm gonna leave you guys up here on this hill at the HHH B&B overlooking historic Holbrook, Arizona, where we've had many fine adventures. And I don't know when I'll see you again, but I'll see you in Randomland. If you can't make it to the Jackrabbit to get your bottle of hot sauce, head on over to randomland.com. You get the hats, the books, the hot sauce. You can join our Patreon. That will keep me on the road more than any other single thing. But there wouldn't be any point to be on the road if you guys weren't watching these videos, giving them big fat thumbs up, staying till the very end, and sharing them with your friends. And for all that, I appreciate you so much. You've done your duty. Now it's time for all of us to go home and sleep well. look at that. There it is.
Ah.
The little Route 66 sign. It's like Where's Waldo or something.
Yeah.
It's hard to find in here, but it's still here.